All right, everybody, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. This is a live recording of the Talking Poop podcast, our first ever live recording, and we're doing it here at Phoenix Fan Fusion. Are you guys having a good time at the Phoenix Fan Fusion this year? Yeah. This is an event we try to come to every single year. We've been doing it for about 5 years now that I've been coming to it, but this is the first time. We just started this podcast like a year ago, and last year I said, you know what, I saw some other podcasts coming live to the Fan Fest, and I said, next year we're going to be there, and so here we are. So I'm pretty excited about that. So as most of you know, this is called the Talking Poop podcast. Unfortunately, it's about movies, music, and media. So if you're here to have your butthole looked at, you're in the wrong room. So anybody that was here for that can leave.
Wait, you can stay. I'll look. It's fine. Later.
So as I said, we're here. We do movies, music, and media. So we do video games, music, movies. Media. And normally in the podcast format, we can say whatever we want to say, but today we're going to try to keep it PG for everybody. So if you got little ones in the crowd, my son's in the front row. He's only 6 years old, so I'm going to try to keep those F-bombs down to a minimum.
The earmuff symbol?
Yes, we'll do the earmuffs. It'll flash on here when you guys need to do earmuffs for your kids. You know? We wanted to have a swear jar, but security took it away from us. So.
And also we're poor, and we don't have money to
Can't afford a jar. So we have a theme song that we normally start the podcast out with. And today we have the artist of our theme song here to perform it live for you. So here is Alicia Irino performing the Talking Poop theme song.
You had to say Irino.
Okay. How many of you know the theme song to Talking Poop podcast?
Yes.
Nice.
That one
nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
No pressure, right? Can we hear it? Can you all hear that or no? Yeah. Oh, okay. Do you lose sleep at night? Grab your pillow tight. Do you struggle to find why Han and Luke had to die? Are you just a mess? Does Hollywood leave you stressed because their sequels are more important than fan requests? Hold on to your chair, cause Talking Poop takes you there. You might have to change into some new underwear. Talking Poop. Thank you. I'll be here all night.
We'll sing a little out of tune, Mama.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to the Talking Poop podcast. Today we are going to cover The Princess Bride. How many people here is The Princess Bride your favorite movie? A lot of you. Excellent. With a show of hands, how many people knew that The Princess Bride is a Christmas movie? One, just
Two,
a couple
three.
smattering. Okay, so I didn't realize this either, but The Princess Bride, in the opening scene when the grandpa comes in to talk to Fred Savage, there is like a handmade Santa Claus like taped to the wall. Which I always noticed that, but I just thought, it's a little kid's room, so it's just probably a project that he made, and it's sitting up there. But then his mom comes in and opens the windows because he's playing video games to let the light in. And if you look out the window, probably you have to have the Blu-ray. Your VH copies aren't going to show you this, but you can see out the window, all the houses are covered in snow and Christmas lights. And when the grandpa comes in and hands them the book of The Princess Bride, it's wrapped in Santa Claus paper. So it's just something to watch out for next time you guys watch the movie.
We call that wrapping paper.
All right, so I put together a great panel for you guys today. Sitting right here to my right, from Arizona Burlesque, this is Vivian Vengeance.
Nice to meet y'all.
Next to her is published author and historian and so many other things. This is Bryan the Machine Gunn.
Happy to be here.
Say nice things, please.
And next to him, I don't know if we even need to bring up that she's here. I don't know what she's going to add to the podcast, but she is the YouTube sensation for her hit song, Dill Don't Leave Me, and the author of the Talking Poop theme song, Alicia Irino.
Thank you. I just got a sick plug.
All right, I'm going to sit down because standing at a podium is super scary, you guys. I want to thank all you guys for being here, first of all. That's awesome. And we're going to start off by talking about the book. In case you didn't know, this movie is based on a book. And I had Bryan Gunn, the historian, take a look at the book so that he could talk about, like, what's the deal with the book, like, compared to the movie.
He is the only one that knows how to read, too, so, like, we all couldn't do that.
Well, the book was written by William Goldman, who also did the screenplay. But one of the things I loved about it was he starts the book with a long introduction as if it's in his real life, and he's talking about his family and his son, and that his father, much like in the movie, his father, who was an immigrant, read the book to him while he was sick. And before that, he said, I was never interested in books. I was never interested in learning. I was interested in sports. Never wanted to go to school. And then my father read me this book, and I loved it. And I never read it for myself because it was always my dad's thing to read it to me. I never wanted to crack open those pages for myself. And when his son turns 10, he goes out and looks for this book written by Morgenstern with the same name, Princess Bride, and it's the history of a fake European country, and he gives it to his son, and his son says, I hate it. It's terrible. It's really boring, and it's all about politics. I don't know why you gave me this. No, thank you. So he looks at it for the first time and says, this is a big, old, dusty, dry volume, and it is really boring if you're a 10-year-old kid. And he didn't understand why that was, so he goes around and tries to find more original copies of it and realizes that he needs to write an abridged version. So he writes an abridged version of The Princess Bride that is the book we know today. And all of this is just part of the story. This is not a real book by Morgenstern, but he's so convincing in this introduction when people read it that he had his fans calling publishing houses going, can I please have an original Morgenstern copy of Princess Bride? And they're telling people, that's not a thing. I'm sorry, it doesn't exist. And they were so convinced. They said, no, it's a really old book. It's from the 1700s, 1600s. You have to go really look for it. It might be in a different language. And they're saying, no, it's just a book by William Goldman. And fans were upset. And he, as an author, he kept the magic going himself. People would write him letters, and he would say, yeah, Morgenstern wrote the book. It's not really my creation. I can't really take credit for it. I can't talk about it too much. There's a lot of legal stuff that I'm wrapped up with. So he did that to just kind of keep the fan mystery going, which I really loved and thought that was great of him to do as an author. The book, of course, as with any book, has more detail and you get to know the characters more. But I don't say this very often. I love books. Obviously, I'm an author. I always enjoy the book over the movie. This is actually one of the books that I think the movie did it better.
Well, it has Andre the Giant.
It has Andre the Giant in the movie, which is always a plus.
Does the book have Andre the Giant?
Similar, but
That's
obviously
true. I don't know how to read,
not
so I
Andre.
didn't know that.
I did hear, though, that he wrote that part for Andre the Giant.
it works. I mean, it works with him. Obviously, if you see the movie first, you're never going to picture anyone else. And I also wanted to say that I'm glad they've never done a remake of this movie. There is no sequel, although they tried. They asked William Goldman to write a sequel. He said he tried for a few years. He could just never create a proper sequel. And I'm glad in this age of sequels and redos and remakes that we've left this classic alone. But to get back, I was saying that I do prefer the movie over the book because of the narrator voice the entire time where, he's not dead, he's just mostly dead. He kind of does that the entire book, and it slows it down a little bit. I definitely prefer the fast-paced action of the movie, so I don't know if you're missing much there.
And I much have to agree with your statement on Andre the Giant being the best, the best choice for that, because actually most people are surprised to learn that Arnold Schwarzenegger actually auditioned for the part.
Thank God he didn't get it.
But at that point,
Let me guess, he didn't speak English well enough?
No, he was too expensive. It
Right.
was too expensive, so they went with Andre the Giant. And another interesting thing is that the movie was actually made for the author's daughters, so they had a big part in it, in casting as well, I believe.
It really makes me feel like my dad sucks. That's okay. That's a
I think if they
conversation
remade
for
it today,
later.
would they cast The Rock?
No, if they remade it today, it'd be Mark Ruffalo in a skin-tight suit with little dots all over his face.
CGI, I forgot.
That's how Fezzik would be done.
They'd still make him green, too.
But with what Alicia said, when I saw this and the grandpa comes in and gives the kid a present, first off, I was like, my grandpa never gave me a present. And then he sits down and he's like reading a book to his grandson, and I was like, where do these grandpas come from? My grandpa doesn't do nothing for me.
While the little boy was sick as well.
Yeah, like on a weekday even. And then he reads him an entire novel.
My grandpa gave me a cigarette when I was sick. He told me to go outside.
Maybe a shot.
Just rub dirt in it.
So as you guys know, the reason we picked Princess Bride today was because Chris Sarandon is here at the Fan Fusion.
Wait, how many of you have seen him today?
Couple people.
Guess what? Joke's on you. I am Chris Sarandon. So nice to see
Pull
you.
the mask off.
I look prettier this way. So
Chris knew about this podcast, but he's doing a signing right now, so he wasn't available. But there's a possibility tomorrow night, we're doing Fright Night, and that will be an 18 and over show. That will be at 9 o'clock at night, and there's a possibility that Chris might show up. So just...
and if he doesn't, I'll find him and I'll
Who
make
played
him.
Prince Humperdinck? So
Yeah, he plays
Prince Humperdinck. And you know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about Prince Humperdinck's plan. What is that noise?
It's your mouth.
Is that my
We talked about
You're
the
talking
nervous parts, guys.
That's my hard P's. Sorry, guys. Okay, so Prince Humperdinck's plan in this is to have his fiancée kidnapped in order to frame, it's Gilder, right? Gilder is like the opposing country, to frame Gilder and start a war.
It sounds like Game of Thrones.
And their country is Florin. And one thing that's actually interesting about the country names is those are currencies, Dutch currencies.
So it was the Dutch. I knew it the whole time.
Darn Dutch.
It's always the Dutch. But yeah, so I started thinking about that, and I was like, is that a good enough plan to start a war?
I mean, we've
over a
seen
woman?
wars in history started over pretty much everything. Wars used to just be an exercise between nobles, kind of like a weekend activity to send your soldiers out and watch them kill each other and come back and go,
They're
"Oh,
getting restless.
I gained a town."
Let's send them out.
I didn't find anything where someone tried to marry a rival's daughter, then have her assassinated so he could start a war. Nothing that complicated. Although there were some very neat assassination attempts we find through history. King Frederick was one of the kings who was assassinated, and he was very wary of poison as I was researching this because his father had been poisoned. So he always had a taste tester for his wines and foods, and no one could get to him, even though he was not such a great king as people didn't love him so much. And then one day, someone got the idea to poison his riding gloves. So he put his riding gloves on, and he went out, and as the sweat was gathering, he kept wiping the sweat and just absorbing the poison through his skin.
Was it iocane powder?
I don't know if they could smell it.
That is a legitimate poison, by the way. Iocane
Yeah, so
powder.
watch yourself, Jason.
Watch out.
Is it a real thing to take a bunch of like a little bit of poison so that you can build up an immunity to it, or do you just die when you take a little bit of poison?
No, there was a king named Mithridates who used to do that. He fought against the Romans, and he took little bits of poison over his entire life so he could build an immunity. He was paranoid about being poisoned. Then when the Romans stormed his palace and captured him, he tried to poison himself so he wouldn't fall into their hands, and he was immune. So he got tortured by the Romans.
Probably not.
Also, Napoleon, when Napoleon tried to kill himself, he took too much poison. He thought, I'm so much more than a mortal man. I need to hang myself, shoot myself, take too much poison. And he ended up shooting the rope, taking too much poison, and throwing it up, his body completely rejecting it, not giving it a chance to absorb.
It's a fine line.
Did he die?
Small man syndrome.
That did not kill him.
Yeah. That's right. Walking around. He's here today, actually.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Napoleon died.
Thank you for telling me. I don't know how to read, so.
So, you know, taking it back to the beginning of the movie, I want to talk about like this whole thing with Princess Buttercup. She wasn't a princess, but she owns a farm. Where are her parents?
Whoa, Jason.
Oh, sorry.
You don't have to be so
Backfire.
aggressive.
I really like this thing. I just want to get down on it. Yeah, where are her parents through the whole thing? She's out like hooking up with the farm boy out in the barn, and her parents are nowhere to be seen.
Well, he's basically a slave in the book. He's
Yeah.
a little better than a slave that they all treat like crap, including the parents.
Is he Dutch? Like what? Who were the slaves back then?
I don't know.
Damn it! I brought you here, Brian, for research.
You're the historian of the group.
The research was her parents apparently bought him, and he worked on the farm. And then when she says, "Oh, I love you," he goes, "Well, I better get out of here.
Did her parents
Go find my fortune."
Did her parents leave to go to like the store for a pack of cigarettes and just never came back?
They weren't too bright. They were, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, they certainly didn't know their daughter was out fooling around with a hay thrower out in the thing.
I want to know how he fell in love with her because the whole time, and then she's like,
Cool.
Wayne. she was just really mean. And then she's like, wait, just kidding.
I guess back then looks are everything.
Well, and then there's that scene in the movie where I believe they're in the equivalent of a kitchen, and she goes, "Farm boy, fetch me that pail," and it's literally right above her head.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't.
Well, that
know
was kind of a
anybody
pimp
that would
move.
do
Like
that.
that's how you get them in close.
And then they
So
made
you're
out, I
going for the
guess.
kill.
I
They
took a
did
lot
more
of-
than make out, but
I took a lot of relationship notes from like her moves.
isn't that how you met your
met.
fiance,
I
Alicia?
did.
Was
Farm boy. I do live out in the Midwest, so I'm able to say that. Farm boy, fetch me that pitcher. And
then
he's
you
like,
took
what
him out,
pitcher?
Took him out for a romp in the corn. So then he is apparently afraid of commitment because then he's just like, I'm gonna go seek my fortune and I'll be back. And then he doesn't come back. He's attacked by pirates, which I guess was a thing back then.
Is that a euphemism
Pirates
for
are always a
anything?
thing.
No, that's
What do you
bad.
guys think he had to do to not be murdered by those pirates and then become the head of the pirates?
He probably had to roll a nat 20 on his charisma.
He had plenty of rolls in the hay, I suppose.
With the real Dread Pirate Roberts?
His costume is actually inspired by Zorro, I read, interestingly enough.
You had to read that? You couldn't just like look at it and be like,
They left out the hat. It was a bit extra.
this looks like something.
I do like in the movie how she couldn't tell it was him until he took off the mask. It's the love of your life.
He grew a little mustache.
He grew a tiny
right?
mustache and has eye protection. Man, who is that? I don't know.
To be honest, when I saw you with your mustache, I didn't recognize you
That's a
either.
good
So
point.
So his plan is to come back, steal her back, which I don't know how he knew about Prince Humperdinck's plan to begin with. I guess through the grapevine back then. It was pirate channels, maybe? Yeah, conch shells, maybe. But he comes rolling back to save the day from the Spaniard, who obviously I would cast Mandy Patinkin if I was looking for a Spaniard. I mean, that makes no sense whatsoever.
it's weird to see him out of costume, and you're like, that's not normal. What's going on?
Oh, you see him now, yeah, and you do not think of Inigo Montoya.
No.
And he quotes that that's been his favorite role he's ever played, was in that film.
I was actually watching the making of it last night, and when he talks about it now 25 years later, I guess it's been almost 30 years now, it still brings tears to his eyes. Like, he's so proud of that part. And he admits, a lot of actors, you see him in interviews or you see him like at Comic-Cons and they get upset that they're recognized for the character that everybody loves, and that's unfortunate for us as fans, but he's not like that at all. Like, he loves it. He says he's asked 2-3 times a day to say the line, and he does it every time. So he loves it, and it's nice to see that fandom.
And his is the second most quoted line in the movie. I bet you can guess the first. And inconceivable is third, actually. But part of the reason that role was so powerful for him was he did method act it, and his father died of cancer shortly before he took that role. So he felt that, by acting that he was just really, that was his way of defeating it.
The sword fight he did at the end, yeah, he actually stabbed Christopher Guest when they were practicing that, and Christopher Guest was like, he actually had to go to Rob Reiner, the director, and be like, Mandy is scaring me a lot right now. He is coming at me really hard, and he's got some major crazy eyes.
Said, yeah, that's called method acting.
Yeah, method
Trying
acting.
to kill you.
He was literally pretending that the six-fingered man was cancer. And
Oh, yeah.
he
Oh,
kept
yes.
saying, I'm going to kill you, cancer. And Christopher
he was
Guest was like,
thinking of his dad's cancer. As
that's
he was
not my
saying all that.
name.
You killed my father. Cancer.
And in all seriousness, though, I think he did recognize that he was part of something special, because if you look at Princess Bride objectively, it's an 80s fairy tale movie. What makes it more special than other 80s movies? That's something that you can watch it over and over again and not know the answer to. You just know that it's a special movie. And, not every actor is happy to be stuck to that role. I think he recognizes that that's a good movie. It's not a bad movie to be recognized from, and it's a classic that's going to continue to be a classic.
It was one of those ones it was really hard to get made off of the book. Like, a lot of studios wanted to make it. Even Robert Redford had the rights to do it for a little while, and he couldn't get it made. And Rob Reiner was a big fan of the book and wanted to do it. And the studio, after he did Spinal Tap, the studio came to him and was like, whatever you want to make. the next thing is yours. And he said, I want to do The Princess Bride. And they said, anything but that. Because this book was just so hard to crack, because it was action, it was swashbuckling, it was a romance. And I mean, it had dark elements to it, and then it had comedic elements to it. And that's why everybody in here loves it, is because it speaks to you on a level that whatever it is you enjoy, there's a piece of that in The Princess Bride. And the story is just gorgeous. You know, it's an amazing story. It's an amazing love story. It's an amazing fighting story. It's an amazing pirate story. It's got a great bad guy in Chris Sarandon, who is super good at playing people we hate.
He is.
And looking beautiful while he does it.
He does look dashing as he's being evil.
I think he had the prettiest dresses in that movie
Yes.
out of any.
He had the
He
most
did.
costume changes for
And the
sure.
bling.
Yeah. He was probably a diva about it too. Like, not this one.
I feel bad for his hairstylist. That was some big, thick hair.
To keep in place while he's running around, you got to keep that perfect.
Riding
You know they got a
horseback.
big paycheck for that though. But yeah, that's a good. I get surprised when I hear people haven't seen The Princess Bride. Has anybody here have not seen The Princess Bride?
But came to a podcast about it.
Okay.
Were you obligated by your SO to come here? Come on now.
Yeah.
If you hadn't seen it, spoiler alert, we're ruining some of the better moments of the movie.
I know my favorite scene in that movie is the sword fight scene. of
Let's
course.
talk about the sword fight
I
scene.
was just
Yeah.
about to bring that up. Little known fact is that the person that did the choreography for Star Wars, Bob Anderson, actually researched sword fighting in the 17th century and put together a lot of the duels that we see in The Princess Bride. So I think that's pretty sweet. Lightsabers.
The script said they pull out their swords and they have the most epic sword fight ever seen. Great. If you're a director and you read that, it's like, thanks a pant load. So they went about, they wanted to make sure that it was the first sword fight that you see all the way through. They wanted to do it in as little takes as possible, and they wanted the actors to be the ones doing it and not stunt doubles. And they did. Mandy Patinkin and Carrie Elways were able to do the entire scene in one take. They did cut it up in the final movie, but they were able to do the whole thing in one take over and over and over again. And they just practiced for months and
know.
months and months.
They watched a whole bunch of like old films that had just
Yes.
very iconic sword fighting scenes.
It was
and they
also
just
the
mimicked
longest
that.
sword fight ever put on film at the time.
Boom.
And yeah, it was amazing, and it's right there on screen. I mean, if you weren't into the movie by that point,
Right.
you're on board and after the sword fight.
I mean, they've got the whole left-handed thing going on. They're quipping back and forth the whole time with their witty remarks. I mean, there's everything, and it's not too serious, it's not too much, but it was just the right amount to get you into the movie at that first fight scene.
I am really impressed about the whole left-handed thing because I can't even brush my hair with my left hand. I'm like, how do you fight with it?
Well, and they didn't play with any of the costumes either. That scene where Carrie Elwes takes a butt of the sword to the head, he did pass out, actually. And then we talked about the injury to
he get workers' comp for
guest
that?
thigh.
I guess they kept doing it, and he just said, like, yeah, it's not enough, like, it doesn't look real, and he's like, just hit me a little harder, a little,
Pass us out.
perfect. All right, let's roll the cameras for the next one, and
Nailed it. In that sword fight scene, though, so they saved it to the end of the movie so that the two actors could practice throughout the entire thing, and so that they could get really, really good at it. So toward the end of the movie, I don't know if you guys know this, but they filmed in England on set, and Andre the Giant couldn't get from the hotel to the set in the bus because he couldn't fit.
couldn't get through the doors.
Yeah, couldn't get through the doors on the bus. Or any of the production cars for that matter. So he used to drive a little ATV, a little three-wheeler, and he would drive that everywhere.
Wait, Andre the Giant would drive.
It looked like he was sitting on a poodle, basically, if you've never seen a picture. He's,
just-
Yeah, it
he's
was
almost eating this thing, just
Yeah, it was like a Matchbox car.
that poor
He's just like-
engine, just.
And he's
So-
also quoted saying he did not feel strange about his size or his height while on set of the movie, which could not be more ironic now.
He did. Everybody always looked at him weird, but when he was playing this giant character, like everybody looked at him like he was just, one of the
giant
guys.
character.
So anyway, he would drive this ATV to set every day, and he'd get bored. He'd start whipping around on it and stuff and doing wheelies. And
Tokyo drifting.
Carrie always comes to set, and he's like, "Hey, boss, you should check this out. Get on it. So yeah, that was my Andre the Giant.
It's almost like he was in the room with us.
It's pretty much the same as my Arnold or any other impression that I do.
Say, was that a little nod to the Arnold?
So he's given Carrie Elways a whole bunch of crap, and Carrie Elways had never ridden on a motorcycle in his entire life. So he's like, no, I don't want to do this. But when Andre the Giant says, you should try this, you're going to try it. So he gets on it, he drives a little way up the hill, and his foot gets stuck underneath the ATV and goes underneath the wheel and breaks his foot. So he's rushed to the emergency room with a broken foot, and he knows that he still has to film this sword fight scene in a couple of days. They're like getting really close to it. So he tells everybody on set, he's like, hey, don't tell Carl that I broke my foot riding the motorcycle. Or, sorry, I said Carl, I meant Rob Reiner.
Carl, Rob Reiner, what's the difference?
So the next time he sees Rob, he goes, so when were you going to tell me you broke your foot? He knew, like everybody on the set knew. So Carrie always did that whole scene with a broken foot. And you can't tell when you watch it, like he's really going for
I'm
it.
gonna go back and scrutinize every shot and just zoom in.
No, I mean,
just
really
to
look
see
at
it.
like when they do and they grab like the monkey bar and they flip over it and he comes down and lands, like
He's
that's
got like
impressive.
tears in his eyes. No, I'm fine. It's great.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Well, and I think the first scene they filmed after that injury was the fire swamp scene, and he is visibly limping around throughout that
You
entire...
can see the limp in the fire swamp scene.
Yes, with the ROUSs.
Well,
My favorite.
Did he get bit in the foot? Because they should have done that.
That's what they did for Luke Skywalker after his car crash. They just messed him up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People might not know about that. You might want to tell that story now.
Sorry, my bad. The story goes before Empire Strikes Back that Mark Hamill was in a car crash while he was filming another movie, and so they added the scene in with the Wampa before, where he cuts its hand off and he gets hit in the face and everything, just to cover up all his like facial scars that he had at the beginning.
Real scars.
Some people say that's not true. Some people say it's true. I don't know yet.
I've
We'll
seen
let
his
you
face all
decide.
messed up. It's true.
It does. He does seem to have some scars.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of injuries, obviously, on set for The Princess Bride, and they still went through it and acted through it. But one thing, back to the ROUSs, that I found particularly interesting was those were actually men in costumes, not puppets, which I thought was really interesting. And during that scene where they're fighting them off, the Princess Buttercup's bride, Robin Wright, her gown
Wait, did you just rename the movie The Princess Buttercup's Bride?
Princess Buttercup's Bride. I think I did. I got really excited. Okay. Her dress actually does catch on fire in that scene.
That was her
and-
first day of shooting too, when her
Yes.
dress caught on fire.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
would you all quit after that type of first day, or would you be like, let's get this party started?
I'd be pretty excited if I got lit on fire my first day at work.
Yeah.
Like, let's go, man.
Despite her dress being supposedly flame retardant, according to costume designer Phyllis Dalton. But obviously that was not true.
They never had to put it to the test.
She's
and then
like,
they
"Please
did,
don't
and
sue
it
us."
failed miserably.
I need to go back and see that. I didn't realize those were men in the
Yeah.
costumes there.
I didn't know that.
Carrie's like dropping people's elbow on them and
Yeah.
stuff. Just boom!
Oh yeah, they said that like one of them was like really good at like looking scary, and then like another one moved really fast. So there was like two dudes in those little suits, just like.
I just want to see you, Jason, in one of those ROUS costumes.
I used to work for Republic Services, and I've seen those for real.
They're not real, though. They're just men in costumes.
The ones I saw weren't men in costumes.
Well, and Blackner, who actually was the main rat, I suppose, was speeding. I guess after they were shooting one night, he went and had a little too much to drink, so he was speeding back onto the set and got pulled over for speeding. And I guess he got held overnight because they could not believe this giant rat suit in his vehicle, and they could not believe that he was in this movie.
This guy's up to no good.
So they had to find somebody to fill in and wear another rat suit for one scene.
Imagine being asked to be, hey, do you want to fill in
They
as a
call the
rat?
local Chuck E. Cheese, and they're like, we need a rat here on set now.
Giant rat.
Hey, everybody.
That's a mouse, not a rat.
Does it matter if you see it while you're eating?
Some of them you can befriend. Not from personal experience do I know that, but moving on.
So after the epic sword fight, he goes on to fight Andre the Giant. This is Dread Pirate Roberts. And Andre, while coming from a wrestling background, and they thought that he would have like a hard time with the speaking of English, he actually had the hardest time doing the fight scene because at that time Andre's body was shutting down on him. He had a disease where the hormone continued to grow, his growth hormone inside of him continued to grow. So his organs were growing, his body was growing, but your joints in your body aren't made to do that, And then all the years, going over the top rope, which was
this is like 1980s, 1970s wrestling when they were throwing each other around and like throwing each other out of the ring and really hitting each other with chairs and ladders.
Yeah.
And he's going against guys like Hulk Hogan and things like that. He really put his body through some punishment.
Yeah, if you watch any of his stuff on YouTube, which if you haven't seen Andre the Giant actually wrestle, check it out on YouTube. The
worth
clips,
it.
it's amazing. And he was touted as the biggest and the strongest guy in wrestling. So he would pick up these 300-pound dudes over his head and slam them down and do all these awesome moves. Well, it took a real toll on his body. So by the time he was trying to break into acting in The Princess Bride, his body was pretty tore up. He couldn't even handle having Carrie Elway's full weight on his back.
Oh yeah, they had to put her on wires when.
Well,
when he.
Carrie Elway's isn't The Princess Bride.
Oh no, I was.
Did you see this movie, Alicia?
Yeah.
Did you get that email that I sent you that we were going to do this in front of people?
What podcast are we doing this?
We're used to being able to edit things out.
Yeah, like when Alicia says stupid things, I usually edit it out. But now you guys get to hear it all.
You get
Sorry,
the
I
raw
apologize.
version. No, I remember watching the thing last night where it was the Princess Bride. She falls down in his arms, but like you can tell.
Like a marshmallow.
Yeah, and she had to be put on wires because he couldn't. She said she was 100 pounds then, and he couldn't carry her because of his back.
105. She was a fatty.
Oh, sorry.
One of my favorite things that did come out of this movie is that while he was shooting this, while Princess Bride was shooting, they were shooting Conan the Destroyer, which has Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in it and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it was just on the set across the way from Princess Bride. So Google, when you go home, or right now on your phones, look at the picture of Andre the Giant and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and they're picking up Arnold Schwarzenegger between them, and he's probably a good 3 feet off the ground, and they each have one of his arms, and he's just kicking.
He looks like a super buff baby in that picture.
It just gives you an idea of how
Wait.
big Andre really was.
He's not a super buff baby? I don't know. I'm all over the place today.
Well, and speaking of him tearing his body up, the guy could drink. Apparently, he drunk quite a bit on the set as well.
Like
So-
20 cases, or not cases of wine, but like he would bring in cases of wine and he would drink
He had the gallon, the Thunderbird.
Or just a whole barrel.
Yeah. So another thing, if you haven't seen it, look up Andre the Giant with a beer in his hand. It looks like a little baby pretend can in his
keychain
giant
beer.
mitt.
Yeah, like a keychain.
And the guy would just drink and drink and drink the whole time on set. And Carl Reiner said, "Do you ever get drunk?" And he's like, "A little tipsy, boss. little tipsy."
Man, you got to spend a lot of money, like at the bars, if you.
Yeah,
really
people
try.
talk about it like that's awesome, but not for him. Like,
Imagine
how
him
much money
going
does he have to
into-
spend just to get a buzz?
He'd
That's why you
probably,
go to
like,
the
clear out
VFW and you get
all
your
of their
50-cent
stock.
beers.
Not to mention he has to buy a new toilet every time he takes a dump.
Hey, it's called talking poop.
Yeah, we were gonna get there eventually, guys.
We tricked you.
And since we're on the subject, the moment where Andre and Inigo Montoya and the Dread Pirate Roberts are up on the bridge, and Dread Pirate Roberts at that point, Wesley, he's come back from being mostly dead. Spoiler alert, he gets mostly dead in this movie, you guys.
No, we asked everyone here has seen it, remember?
So they're up on that bridge and they're filming and it's a quiet scene and Andre starts letting out a fart. And they said that you can imagine everything with Andre the Giant was bigger, including his farts. And he farted for 30 seconds. They timed it. The sound guy timed it. And afterwards, nobody could even move. And Carl Reiner says, or Rob Reiner, I keep calling him Carl, what the hell?
Carrie was paralyzed for real after that.
He was really mostly dead after that. He couldn't move.
Do you think it was like seen on the Richter scale?
But the director says, Andre, are you all right? I am now, boss.
Who could be mad? I'd just be impressed, man.
Well, nobody who gets mad at that's around for long, so.
It'd be really funny if he like afterwards was just like, meh, weak.
Even if you are upset, you're not going to tell him.
No, you don't.
How
say
dare you, sir?
He'll do it again.
That
Like,
offended my nose. Oh, I've had you at my house for dinner. Alicia after a chili dog is right up there with Andre the Giant.
It's after 2.
All right, so from there, we should talk about the death scene. The machine.
Oh,
The machine that apparently, what does it do to you? Like,
takes.
but how does it suck the years out? So it's attached to his nipples.
And he's got the head.
Sucks the
he's got the
water
headpiece.
out of his nipples.
I was gonna say he had some earmuffs. He did.
Those were for his. He was like
You
jamming
would
out.
remember the nipple part though when she.
All I could see is the nipples. Yeah, I was just like, they're sucking his nipples, all the water out.
On the highest setting.
Yeah, it looked like one hurt, and then he
Turn
shifts
this
it up to
thing
like
off, I'm
50.
Well, he was mad. Yeah, he got a little jelly, and he came after him.
Yeah.
And then we got to hear the famous scream.
That scream is epic.
Yeah, which I think was the first time I heard it was in Princess Bride, and then every movie after that.
No, you're talking about the Wilhelm scream. That's from
Yes.
Star Wars.
That one, yes.
That was my Wilhelm scream too. You guys, I'm good at doing impressions, so.
So,
The albino, what was his name? Mel Smith.
He was amazing.
He was super amazing.
It gives me goosebumps every time I see him on screen. Like, he just creeps me out.
He's super creepy, and his
Tried in
eyes.
4K with that like herpes sore he's got on the side of his mouth. That's hard to look at in 4K.
Maybe movies are getting too good of quality. Like, we
Exactly.
just need
Like
to
in the
scale it back,
80s,
yeah.
I didn't notice how foul that was.
Let's go
And
back
then-
to DVDs.
Yeah.
Let's just-
There were no 75-inch TVs in the 80s, so it was fine. Now it's too much.
could you imagine watching G.I. Joe on one of those TVs?
But when Andre jugs him in the top of the head and he goes out, that's amazing.
That is amazing. Well, now I'm wondering if his little herpes lip was real because apparently his eye soreness, he was allergic to the contact solution that they were using for his contacts.
Wait, he was allergic to the contact solution where
the
his eyes just really red?
His eyes were
Come
super
on,
sensitive.
we know
and the
what's really
contacts, So
happening.
apparently that was real. Apparently. Now I wonder if that little
He was
extra
crying.
tidbit was. He was crying.
Yeah, that's what I meant. He was crying.
I'd cry
He
if
was
Andre the
emotional.
Giant hit me in the head too.
So if you were Prince Humperdinck, would you build like a torture fortress in the bottom of a
my-
tree?
I don't have to be
Absolutely.
Prince Humperdinck.
Absolutely. Like,
I have one.
I would get a loan from the bank to build one of those under my house for sure. I don't even have anyone to torture. I need that. It would be my man cave, you know?
You just have a TV in there and like beer on tap.
Yeah, and then just in case, you have your life sucking machine.
Yeah. You just hang out there with your 6-fingered man and your albino friend.
Absolutely.
That's the way to do it, dude.
Yeah.
They call that the man cave.
And it's called The Pit of Despair in the film, I think. That's a
It-
great cover.
Which had a great hiding place as well.
That's what I call the bathroom after Brian's been in there.
Or Alicia. Just
Alicia especially.
Mine make cool shapes though, so it's fun after.
You guys, it's not cool. She calls me in there to show me. She's like, look, this one looks like a chicken.
Yeah. One time, one looked like the Kardashian.
No, stop.
It was
Like,
awesome. It was cool.
All of mine.
we
look like
went
the
there, it got a
Kardashians.
little laugh, but no, we don't want to hear the whole story.
Cool.
Can we
It's
talk
like
about
finding
how
Jesus in
Inigo
Togo.
Montoya found the hiding spot, though, with his sword?
He's the Force.
Yeah. What's up with that?
This is Star Wars.
He got his father to guide him. I know. I don't know. Every time he's so upset when he hits the tree, and then there it opens.
he like leans on it and it just opens after he gives up.
I wish I could find stuff I've lost, like the same
I've
exact
seen you in the
way.
forest with a stick trying to find stuff, and it never works out for you.
Alicia, what are you doing out there? I lost my keys.
But let's talk about that castle, you know, in the last scene.
That was a real set.
That was a real set. It was actually the Haddon Hall in England. and all the banners and everything were 18th century, 17th century, which I thought was pretty sweet.
Did they have to take down the Gryffindor banner so that they could find Princess Bride? And then...
I mean, I gotta say, like, I don't know about you guys, but I gotta say, I like the older movies for those practical effects when you really see people fighting or you really see people run around on a set and you're like, that is a castle, like they're in something. Whereas now you watch the Harry Potter movie and you're like, it's stunning visually, but it just doesn't do the same thing for me.
It's like one room and then everything else is all green screen.
Yeah.
You can see the green through
false.
the...
Like, first of all, Harry Potter is off limits to talk crap about, okay?
Sorry. That's right.
And also, my boss showed me, they just went to Manchester, and they went to this castle that I immediately forgot the name of, but he showed me pictures. And
Was it
is-
Universal Studios? That's not a real castle.
That is a real castle.
There were not roller coasters in Old England.
That's for real. The queen rides them all the time. And she waves her flags, and she gets as many churros as she wants. But they used real stuff. It's a corridor. I don't know. I saw the Quidditch field, and it was pretty cool. So now, what is it? That sounds right. You could honestly name it anything, and I'd be like, that's it. That's the one. That's, yeah. It really makes me want to go to Manchester.
I
I can do
should have picked
impressions
Star Wars
too.
for my
Manchester.
special effects.
But the authenticity of The Princess Bride, to me, just made it so real, and it just made it such an everlasting film, you know, from the choreography they researched, to the castle, to
Costumes.
the costumes, everything in it, I feel, is just visually so stunning.
All the swords, all the knives are awesome looking.
Yes.
And authentic.
It really bugs me in a movie. They've been doing this now a lot. We see those like latex swords or those foam swords, and you see them in a movie, and it just takes something out of it.
Oh my gosh, and Braveheart, dude, when they're running across the field and that dude's axe is like, whoa.
Yeah. I just saw that in Game of Thrones. Jon Snow is hopping up on a horse in season 7, just whoop.
In Game of Thrones, they can't even get rid of their coffee cups.
No.
Or water
yeah.
bottles. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we can agree, comparing authentic movies and shows from the 80s to now, we should all just go back to quality of the 80s because we're just messing something up.
One of the things that we, like, is all of our responsibilities as fans is to, like, use Twitter, use the internet, you know, let the studios know that we don't want these CGI effects anymore, that we want more classical effects. It is working, like.
Mostly I'd say, you know, vote with your wallet.
Absolutely, like, you know, like, not every, like, Aladdin, we should not be seeing Aladdin in the theater.
Or another jungle. They're doing another live action Jungle Book.
We don't need that.
Yeah.
Wait, didn't they just do one?
Yes, they literally just did. And they are doing, the live action Lion King, which I don't think anyone asked for.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well,
That's
we
another
were talking
thing, yeah.
about they
I
can't
don't know if you
redo
guys heard-
everything because
sorry.
the sight lines, I mean, where the actors were looking, they can't quite redo everything, but they can make him look a little more
Sonic-y?
Sonic-y, yeah, instead of human teeth, like.
Honestly, if I saw that as a
Yeah.
child, I would be screaming in a theater. I'd be like, Mommy, no.
But that took one day to get that turned around. They released the trailer, and
Yeah.
everybody was so mad at that Sonic trailer that they're going to change Sonic. So, like, we have a voice now.
They were mad that first poster came out, and all you could see was his feet, and people. Yeah, and people were just mad about, like, just look at his legs and his shoes, like, this just doesn't look right. And that started right there. And then the trailer came out, and it was like, phew. We got a question back here?
Well, I was gonna say, like, I'm willing to bet money that they only made that first Sonic trailer specifically to get backlash and publicity, and they had a different Sonic movie just completely made.
I've heard that theory, you know, any publicity is good publicity, some people say, so they make it first like, we'll see what happens out there. Because if you notice, you know, the Pikachu movie came out and it was pretty much the same animation. It looked very similar to me, and there wasn't as much
Yeah.
backlash for that. Although we are
Because
getting a little off
Pikachu is adorable and doesn't have human teeth
He is adorable.
and long legs.
Well, and while we're on the subject, the creature effects of new movies versus the costume and the puppets.
I
and
will take a
everything. Come on.
little man in a suit all day
in
long.
an
day.
ROUS suit fighting
Jensen,
Carrie
come back.
instead of a green screen.
Didn't they do that
Yes.
in Lord of the Rings, too?
They did, I believe.
It was more realistic, and yeah, they had guys
Yeah.
in costumes, in those orc costumes. They were really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, when you watch the Lord of the Rings movies, movies. Not The Hobbit, not
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
The good stuff.
The orbs,
Right.
though.
You have more of the special effects, makeup, and character, like actual people, not as much CGI.
True.
And then I was actually really disappointed in The Hobbit because they changed so much of it.
They did.
Into CGI that I was like, there's a big disconnect between the two.
I think a lot of people felt like it wasn't a part of that Lord of the Rings world that you fell in love with. Yeah.
I am a little nervous too about the new Lord of the Rings coming out on Amazon, and that makes me a little nervous because those 3 movies are so
Am
well
I living
done.
under a rock? What did you just say?
There's the Lord of the Rings series.
Hey guys, you heard it here first. New Lord of the Rings series.
I also think that when you have a movie like The Princess Bride that reaches that level of like cult following.
Yeah.
It does have a cult following.
Definitely.
You're
You're not alone.
Every couple of years they go, oh, well, they're going to redo Back to the Future.
Ugh.
Please no.
Imagine any other
Yeah, please no.
actors in that movie.
No.
Same with The Princess Bride. Could you imagine anybody else playing those roles?
Oh,
No.
no. Oh, no.
Like, my favorite scene in that movie in The Princess Bride is when Buttercup comes into the bridal suite and she's getting ready to stab herself, and Wesley's on the bed, and then Humperdinck comes in and he threatens him with the pain. That's
Yes.
my favorite scene.
I just don't want to see
Not
like
to the
Robert.
death, to the pain.
I don't want to see
To the
Robert
pain.
Pattinson saying "as you wish." Like that doesn't
No.
work for me.
Pass.
It doesn't
Hard
work
pass.
for me.
All right, you guys, we got to wrap this up because our time has come to an end. But anybody that listens to the podcast knows we like to play one little game at the end. Because this is a family-friendly event, we're going to change the name of that game to Mommy Daddy Love, Marry Kill. And we've added one for our podcast. We added Fight to it.
Fight?
So Bryan Gunn, I ask you this.
Okay, I'm on the spot.
Who would you mommy daddy love? Who would you marry? Who would you kill? And who would you fight between Fezzik, Andre the Giant, Prince Humperdinck, Miracle Max, and Princess Buttercup?
Wow. Always with the choices.
I know.
I'm glad I at least got a female choice this time.
Mommy,
Usually
Daddy
I only
love
give them
all
male
of them.
choices, but I thought I'd slide one in there for him.
Yeah. I'm going to marry Fezzik. I'm going to marry Andre the Giant because I think we'd have a really nice life
I
together.
bet he spoons
Just
really
imagine
well.
the cuddling.
I can,
Exactly.
Yes.
I can always be the little spoon.
Yeah.
And that's important.
That's
you
not
know?
something you get
That's-
in your real life very
No, it's
often.
not.
You're a big
My
man.
wife is 5'3", so I don't get that. I'm a foot taller than her. Jetpacking. Yes, exactly. This guy knows.
We're going to remake The Rocketeer.
Obviously, I guess mommy, daddy love the princess, Buttercup.
Lame.
Yeah, I know.
What
Cop
a
out.
basic
Come on.
answer.
Yeah, come on.
What are my other two?
Miracle Max and Prince Humperdinck. Oh, that's a tough one. One of
Yeah.
them's magic.
I'm going to fight Prince Humperdinck because he's got that very punchable face. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And then I guess kill Miracle Sorry, Miracle Max.
He's so funny.
He is,
I feel
yeah.
like you'd have 7 years of bad luck if you kill him, though.
Maybe I should marry him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I already said I was going to marry Andre the Giant, so
Yeah.
I'll stick with my original instincts there.
You could punch Humperdinck to death.
All right, you guys, that brings us to the end of our podcast. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. It was awesome. This is the biggest crowd we've ever had. I
is
don't
a
think
lot
I've
more
ever had
people
this
than we
many
expected.
downloads on the podcast.
Yes, thank you so much.
So thank you so much for coming. I encourage all of you to check out our podcast. You can download it anywhere where there are podcasts are available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube, or YouTube, whatever you prefer. You can download all of our old episodes. It's free. So check it out. Tell a friend. Tell your grandma. I want to thank the Phoenix Fan Fusion for letting us do this. It was really, really cool, and they've put on a lot of really great events this year. I want to thank Joe Bordry. He's the person that I contacted to do this. If you guys want to put on an event, Joe's the guy you got to contact to do this yourself, and this could be you up here next year. I want to thank Chris Sarandon for taking the time out of his busy schedule to come and visit us and inspire us to do these podcasts. Again, we're doing another one tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. We're doing Fright Night, and that one's going to be 18 and older. I'm not going to watch my mouth on that one.
Yeah.
I want to thank Sterling Smith, our sound guy, for making this thing sound awesome, and hopefully we're going to record it and you guys can hear it live on our podcast. I want to thank my wife right here, Lauren Bromley, and my son Logan for being quiet so Daddy can podcast.
Oh.
I want to thank my amazing panel, Bryan Gunn, Vivian Vengeance, and Alicia Irino.
Yay, he said my name right this time. This is fun. This is good. Well, good start.
And I want to thank everybody out there for supporting podcasts. People don't realize that podcasts aren't free to make. So these people do it for the love of doing it. And just going on to iTunes and giving us 5 stars, or any podcast 5 stars, and giving it a review is huge. That makes so much difference, because that does help you get sponsors and people interested in the podcast. So it's a really cool medium. It's free. People it's not censored. People can say whatever they want when they're not in front of a podcast panel.
I'm going to marry Andre the Giant.
Yes.
Yes.
Also,
say it
I think
here.
everybody can rate today's event too. right?
Also, yes, you can download the Phoenix Fan Fusion has an app. So if you guys download that app and you rate this podcast, that will really help us out. They'll bring us back next year, and then that helps all of the people that are presenting right now if you rate their panel on the app. So that's huge.
And maybe next year we'll bring snacks.
Yes, thank you. You can
Yeah.
follow us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter at Talking Poop Podcast.
Without the hard P's.
Every time.
Talking
put in
poop.
Talking Poop Podcast. If you just go to iTunes and put in Talking Poop,
You'll get
you're
some
going to get a
weird
lot
stuff.
of weird stuff.
Not that our podcast isn't weird.
Did anybody get a business card today?
Yeah, we passed out business cards. We're going to be right outside. If you want to talk to us, we'll answer any questions you guys have about podcasting, about The Princess Bride, about what kind of underwear Bryan wears.
I'm going commando today.
Excellent. So, if you guys want to talk to us, we'll be hanging out front. Right now, we got to end this up, though, and we got another crew coming in. So thank you guys so much. Please
Thank
see
you.
us.
Yes,
Come see us
thank
tomorrow
you.
night for Fright Night.